Welcome to Civil War Digital Digest. I'm Will. Welcome to another of our Out of the Vault series, and we're thrilled to work today with the Detroit Historical Society and Collections Director Jeremy Dimmick. We also say thanks to the Historic Fort Wayne Coalition for access to shoot here at Historic Fort Wayne. Well, Jeremy came over from the Detroit Historical Museum and he brought us these three great pieces, and this grouping is something I've been able to research for the past couple of days. Let's use these artifacts to introduce you to Charles H. Curtis of the 7th Michigan Infantry. Charles enlists on June 19th, 1861, and he's not mustered until the middle of August. Interesting thing going on is the 7th Michigan comes in later, but he comes in early. We're here at Historic Fort Wayne. That's really interesting because this is his early war jacket. Jackets like this show up as part of an entity called the Camp of Instruction in 1861 that was run by Alpheus Williams here at Fort Wayne to teach NCOs for the war for the Michigan effort. It's entirely possible, although we can't prove it, that this jacket actually was here at Fort Wayne. Let's look at it because we'll come over here in a little bit, but this is just incredibly cool because it's beginning of the war, and this is something you don't see all the time. The jacket's almost a brown. It is a fitted jacket, not a coat. When we look at the back, we can see that it's 6-piece construction, the two fronts, side backs, and backs. That fits more construction like a frock coat than it does a sack coat. And what I'm really loving here is all the details. There's 3 exterior pockets. Almost looks like we think of a vest. The buttons, rather than being a full jacket size, are the vest size or the smaller size. We notice their state of Michigan seal. It's missing up here, but if you look into the corner of the arm's eye across the top of the shoulder, when the sleeve was set in, you can see the remains cut away that was a epaulet, and we see one remaining epaulet button. Finally, the inside is muslin lined or some other white fabric that would be typical of an interior lining of the period of a not terribly fancy coat. And there's an interior pocket. This is just magnificent. The one thing I'm suspicious of today in the light that I know we can't photograph well for you, I think I'm seeing the outline of sergeant stripes on the left sleeve. Of course, we know Charles was the first quartermaster sergeant in the 7th Michigan. Let's move on in his collection. In April 1862, he receives his commission to 2nd lieutenant, moves through 1st lieutenant, adjutant. He's aide-de-camp to Colonel Carroll, commanding the brigade, finally becomes a captain before he's mustered out with an honorable discharge for medical reasons in 1864. This really lovely junior officer's frock coat is appropriate for all of those ranks. We don't know when or where, but he wore this at some point. We did another episode many years back on the junior officers' frocks. Take a look as we look at 3 other originals, a couple of those identified. This is identified to Curtis, and the great thing is his line officer's sash is here with it. Charles Curtis comes back to Detroit after the Civil War, lives his life here. He's buried at Woodmere Cemetery after he dies in 1907. These items by themselves are just old pieces of fabric, but when we get the ID and we take all of these, we see one man's journey of service from a volunteer in a state-level regiment through his commissioning, through his time as a commissioned officer leading in service from the beginning of the war up until he resigns with an honorable discharge in 1864. Thanks to the Detroit Historical Society for letting us show you this piece that sits in their collections but doesn't have a world in their museum because there's just so many great stories to tell. We're able to bring this one to you, and hopefully you find a little bit more connection to the Civil War. We'll see you next time.